Hey everybody, it's me again. I wanted to take some time to talk about delves. Delves, the experience of delves in season one, the changes that are coming in season two, and what I think they're doing right, and what I think can still be kind of fixed with delves. So, first of all, what are delves in general? Delves are basically a new form of solo content. They kind of I feel like WoW wants it to be a form of end game, and it can be. I don't necessarily think that it's necessarily taken a hold the way that the developers were maybe hoping for, but I actually really like delves, and while they're not necessarily fulfilling the end game per se, like it's not replacing Mythic Plus or rating for me. What I do think it is doing though is providing another piece of content for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, I think it's just fun in general. I liked Torghast. I liked the Ziskera vaults, the fucking vaults from that .05 patch back in Dragonflight. Well, all the puzzles and stuff. I like exploring. I fell in love with WoW by leveling in dungeons, and I was a healer, and so dungeon content and working with other people I really enjoyed. And this kind of has that vibe, but with some of the positives of I can do this. I made a video at this time. I tend to make a video at this time of the day, but it's 8:30 on a Saturday. There's not necessarily a lot of people on to do Mythic Plus, and I'm not necessarily in the mood to do anything serious. So delves are really fun to just kind of do dungeon-like content, but not necessarily in groups, not necessarily high stress, and I can stop. Like I can take my hands off the keyboard right now and chill. I can go, help my wife with something. I can go make coffee and come back and continue the delve. I think that's really sick. So other reasons I really like delves is it gives me something to learn, like something to do with my alts to learn their kit. I feel like when you're leveling an alt and you're just doing like, let's say, world quests, it's not really a true representation of how they're going to feel. And if you're leveling a healing alt, then you're probably not leveling as a healer. You're leveling as a shadow priest instead of a holy priest. So you don't even get to play the spec that you're doing, right? And I feel like delves are a little bit better in this regard than, let's say, a chill dungeon experience like LFG heroic dungeons or time walking, because those often get ruined by like people speed leveling through them. You like log in and all of a sudden there's a level 11 Fury Warrior just soloing the whole dungeon and he tells you not to move. And it's like, that's not, I want to play the game. I'm not trying to just level efficiently as possible. I want to actually play. And so this gives you a chance to do that. And so if I want to learn how to play Vengeance Demon Hunter, this is a perfect opportunity to not only practice the rotation of a Demon Hunter, but the dungeon can be pretty difficult. Like I can make the delve like an 8 or whatever, and especially if you're just leveling your first alt, like if you are under geared and you try to do an 8, you're gonna get like slapped. And so you can actually learn your rotation in a practical sense, and understand, what's going on. Like I think that's really fun. Another thing I like too is I really enjoy deck building. Like I love PoE. I love making my own builds, and they usually suck, but I don't care. I like finding synergies. And so while it's pretty chill, it's not necessarily super in depth. The curios and learning how to level up Bran and what can he do, and building a play style around the curios that you give him, I do think is fun. While it is pretty, not super substantial, I do think it's fun to kind of mess around with these things. Another reason I like delves is they're not only good for gear, but they're actually really good surprisingly for gold. The undercoin that you get, if you look here, I'm just going to let Bran die. He's pissed, but I'm just going to let him die. So these undercoins here that you get from doing delves, you actually can purchase a bag of reagents with those undercoins if you don't want to use them for anything else. And at this point in the season, you might be at that point where you're just swimming in undercoin and you don't know what to do with them. I highly recommend going and buying those reagent bags, because what they have a chance to drop is something like a Profane Tinderbox. And on my realm right now, Profane Tinderboxes, I think near weekly reset, are going for something like 2 to 2.5k gold, which for just doing a few delves is actually pretty sick. Like if you're just doing delves for fun or for leveling, it's just a nice little passive gold farm where you can just be getting, randomly a 2k gold. Also, now that I'm on that topic actually of like passively doing things, is I was able to get the blood drop from that rare mob down in Ashkahet, and so I can actually farm the chitin. I don't know, how do you say that? Is it chitin? Either way, I'm farming the Nerubian, resources that I need for that mount while doing a delve. So I think that's kind of cool that like there's a system in here. So let's see. Yeah, right there. These Nerubian chitins here. I have a lot to go, but it's kind of nice that I'm just playing the delve for other reasons while also simultaneously farming gold, getting gear, getting undercoin for more gold, or farming the chitins, right? So I think that I personally think that's fun. I also love finding treasures and doing like the little puzzles. I'm not someone that really enjoys necessarily like looking up guides on how to find things. So right now I'm working through the meta achievement for delves, and one thing I'm kind of stuck on is finding all of the treasures. And I've actually been really enjoying trying to find them on my own without using TomTom or anything else. And it's like a little mini game inside of this game mode, which I've been enjoying. Now, that being said, there's a lot about delves that I think need some work, so I want to talk about those as well before I get into the actual changes that they're making, and they are going to fix some of these problems. I think playing delves is a drastically different experience depending on what spec you're playing. And I play all 3 paladin specs to a relatively high level. I'm pretty competent with all these specs, but the experience of doing a delve on a protection paladin versus a holy paladin versus a ret paladin is extremely different. And I find it extremely problematic. I would almost always choose to run a delve as a tank, because as you can see, I've been just kind of passively playing, slowly playing as I'm talking. I'm barely looking at my screen. I know I'm not going to die. I can pull as much as I want. I can stand and summon Nerubians, and it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to die. But if I were to do that as a ret or a holy paladin, I'm probably dead. And what I talked about before of why I like delves in the first place is that they're a chill, passive kind of content that I can collect gold on, get gear on, learn new specs on. But if I'm trying to learn Discipline Priest, actually Discipline Priest is probably a bad example because a lot of that is dealing damage. So let's say like Resto Druid, for example, you're going to be tanking mobs and getting just hit with all kinds of melee attacks. You're getting casted on by all of these enemies, and you have to pull the dungeon, the delve very slowly. And so you're kind of playing the healing role as a tank. So it kind of defeats a lot of like the positives that I have about this game mode, because you end up performing the role of a tank as a healer. And it's not much better as, let's say, Ret Paladin, for example, because while you can turn Bran into a healer, you end up just playing this game of like, you're now playing Diablo 4 where you have to keep picking up all of like the health globes. And it's not necessarily, when I could play Prot and not have to deal with any of that and do it really fast, because Prot does a ton of damage, but also Bran can be set to DPS and he can do a lot of damage. Why would I play the healing spec? Like, normally my answer to something like that would be, well, it's more fun, but it's not. It's not fun at all. And so that's like one of the major problems. Another really major problem I think that delves have is unnecessary annoyance. I don't mind difficulty. I enjoy things like the Mage Tower. I like Torghast a lot, but I'll show an example, and I think you all know what I'm about to talk about, which is the Fungal Folly main mechanic, which is those stupid little green orbs that follow you around and explode. When you're just trying to do like that little game, that matching game, or kill the mirror image that is matching him, and you're just having to deal with the orbs, I feel like that's completely unnecessary. I'm just trying to play the mini game, and I have these things exploding me. Now, as a tank, that doesn't really matter, because they're not going to one-shot me, but if I'm playing a low-level alt, they might one-shot me, and I find that extremely annoying. These things I don't find as annoying, like to just kind of like work around. It just slows you down, but I'm not going to get necessarily one-shot by these, so I think these are not as bad of a mechanic. The stun is kind of annoying, etc. Do I really think this is necessary? I don't know. It's fine. But I do think there are some mechanics here that I understand what they're trying to do, but I feel like they're kind of missing the mark a little bit on what difficulty is fun and what things are annoying. There's different ways to slow you down in this game mode that doesn't have to be like constantly dodging like these mine carts or dodging the exploding mushrooms. Okay, but so I think the biggest gripe I've had so far is not being able to play a healing spec or even just comfortably play a DPS spec without playing the game of picking up health orbs all the time. And so they announced with the 11.1 patch, and they had a Wowcast on this recently, that Brand's going to have a tank spec. And I think that is going to significantly improve the experience of this mode. But I do think there's one thing they can add. So the primary reason, and they talked about this in the Wowcast, that I think adding Bran as a tank spec is going to make a huge quality of life difference is it opens the door to play healer in a delve and actually have a good time with it, because you're not just going to be standing there tanking mobs the whole time. You actually can practice healing Bran. And I think even still with a DPS spec, being able to practice your rotation without having to constantly be healing, whether that's manually healing yourself like World of Glory yourself as a ret, or constantly having to like pick up those health globes, it actually gives people the opportunity, if they want to learn Enhancement Shaman, they can go into a delve and actually experience somewhat what it would be like to have a tank round up some enemies and then you pop your cooldowns and experience what that's like. Now, I think when this change goes into effect, I already do a pretty good amount of delves. I think the amount of delves I'm going to do per week is going to like double or triple, just because it gives me something that I can do at weird times during the day and late at night or early in the morning. When I want to play a spec or learn a new spec, it gives me something to do that's slightly challenging to test my rotation on. I can test builds. I've talked about this earlier in the video. I really like making builds, so I can go in and on my Disc Priest and try a new build out and actually have a way to do that at my own pace. I can pull a mob or have Bran pull it. I can test out, maybe a synergy. And then when it's over, I can go in, change my talents. No one's waiting for me. I'm not ruining anyone else's experience. I can pause the game, essentially, by stopping. Change my talent build up. So I'll show this example here. If I can get these guys to stop running away from me. Brand's dead again. Holy shit, you suck, dude. So I could do a pull, go back into my talents, make an adjustment, and then I can, let's say, swap hero talents and immediately go back in and do another pull as a healer, DPS, or tank, and test it and see if I like it. I think that's really sick. I think that's a cool way to be learning new specs, progressing your character. You're getting gold in the process. You're getting gear in the process for your alts. You're leveling up Brand so you can more efficiently do all those things. I really think that adding that tank spec is going to make a huge difference for delves in general. But I do have one thing I want maybe the devs to consider. And it's the idea of, I don't necessarily know if 5-man is the correct amount, but I would love to see them experiment with adding more companions to the group. Essentially like a follower dungeon, even just one more, like a ranged DPS that you could also modify and maybe have the curios synergize between the party. So like if you have Illyria and Bran in your party, and so there's a group of 3, you're a healer, Bran is the tank, Illyria is the DPS. And you can almost like make builds for both Illyria and Bran that synergize not only with you, but with each other, right? Like you could have that arrow ability where it's if you have Illyria shoot an arrow through an enemy and it hits Bran, maybe it ricochets a second time. I don't know, some bullshit like that. I think that would be really fun, but it also, again, would enhance the experience of allowing someone who's trying to learn DPS or trying to learn healer to have a little bit more of a similarity to what group content feels like. Because a big concern a lot of people have with, let's say, like the difficulty of Mythic Raid, the difficulty of Mythic Plus is there doesn't seem to be an onboarding process. Blizzard doesn't do a very good job at preparing people to get into groups and learn mechanics, triage, heal, basically interact with group content that is in any way difficult. I don't think time walking dungeons, heroic dungeons, like the LFG dungeons or LFR, I don't think that's really preparing people for, let's say, a Mythic +8. For the same reasons I talked about earlier, why I don't think they're as fun is because they're not really a representation of what proper group content feels like. They're too face roll, like you're just going to kind of run through the dungeon. But if I'm this is a level 8, and if I don't pay attention, I can, even as a tank, almost die. And so I still have more levels to go where this is a cool experience for whether it's a new player or maybe someone switching roles or switching classes to experience what the class is like with difficult content. But if you add in whether it's 3 or 5 follower NPCs at this difficulty, and let them take damage, let them like not be perfect, they accidentally stand and stuff, I think that could be a cool way for people that maybe are socially anxious or just don't feel confident enough to get into Mythic Plus yet. This could be that onboarding process that they're looking for, and it could be not only can it be the other endgame pillar that maybe Blizzard is trying to implement that is more for solo players, but it could be that bridge to get them to do the content that they work so hard on. You know that Blizzard works hard on Raid and Mythic Plus, and you can see by videos on YouTube or by just going to Raider.io or any other log sites that a very small amount of the player base actually interacts with the hardest level of content, or even just Mythic Plus in general. And this could kill that two birds with one stone. You're creating an endgame pillar for the solo player that maybe doesn't want to do Mythic Plus yet, or doesn't want to do Mythic Raid, or maybe is that mom or dad that doesn't have a lot of time. They have 15 minutes and they want to progress their character in some way. But it also could be that onboarding process that I think a lot of the community is looking for to get people, from World Quest's solo LFR content to maybe trying their first +2, which I think would be amazing. So really looking forward to not only 11.1, I'm going to have some more videos on all the things coming 11.1, but I really do think that the Bran tank change is drastically going to change the way I interact with delves. I think it's going to increase not only the amount of fun I'm having, but how many delves I'm going to do. When that announcement came out, I literally started getting all of my alts ready to go. I need to get all of my classes ready to level up because I want to play all the classes. I haven't tried all the hero talents yet. I want to experience that. And I think delves are the perfect way to experience at a decently high level, or as high as level as you want, all of the classes. You can make builds, etc. I think it's going to be really great. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not super upset that Bran is sticking around. I think he's fine. I turn his dialogue off sometimes because he can get annoying. But I would love to see them experiment with maybe adding at least one more companion to build and level and to interact with the dungeon. I think that would make the experience much better. But that's my thoughts on delves. Let me know what you think about delves. Do you interact with them? It doesn't seem like a lot of the content creator space talks about them a lot. Like a lot of the high level people either don't like it or just don't interact with it at all. But I feel like there is a big chunk of the community that probably does. I know that I do as a collector. So I'd love to hear, do you do delves? What do you like about them? What do you don't like? Do you like the changes coming in 11.1? I also, before I want to go, I want to thank everybody for 1,000 subscribers. I'm blown away by the reaction to this channel. I started it having pretty much no expectations. I was not expecting 1,000 subscribers in a month, so I'm just completely blown away. Thank you so much for all the feedback. I love reading your guys' comments, positive or negative, so continue to let me know what you guys think. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.